Welcome to English with Zenko Master. Get ready to learn something new today.
I was standing by the lake holding my dress in one hand and my phone in the other. The text from Mateo said, "Only 8 days to go." I should have smiled, but I couldn't stop crying. My name is Amelia. I'm 23 years old. I was supposed to get married next week. I had the dress, the flowers, the venue. I had everything. But now, I have nothing. Just memories and regret. I met Mateo 3 years ago. I was working in a small hotel near Lake Garda. He came as a guest with a business group. I was at the front desk, checking people in. He asked for directions to a local cafe. I gave them, and he smiled in a way that made me feel warm inside. The next morning, he came to the desk again. This time, he asked me if I liked coffee. I said yes. He smiled again and asked if I could show him where the best cafe was. I was not used to guests talking like this, but something about him felt easy. I said I could walk him there during my break. That afternoon, we sat in the sun and talked about where we were from, what we liked, and how busy our lives had become. He was friendly, respectful, and kind. He made me feel seen. After that visit, Mateo started coming to the hotel more often. At first, I thought it was for work, but then I noticed he stayed longer each time. One day he told me the truth. He said he kept returning because he wanted to see me. I didn't know what to say. My heart was beating fast. I had just come out of a bad relationship and didn't think I was ready to trust someone new. But Mateo was patient. He never pushed. He just stayed close. And slowly, I let myself care. In a few months, we became a couple. He lived 2 hours away, but he drove to see me almost every weekend. He sent me messages during the week, asking about my day and telling me small things that made me smile. He remembered my favorite snacks. He told me I looked beautiful even when I felt tired. When it rained, he would say he wished he could walk with me under one umbrella. I started to believe in love again. A year passed, and Mateo met my parents. My mother said he was the kind of man every girl hopes to find. My father said he could tell that Mateo respected me. I visited his family too. His sister gave me a hug like we had known each other for years. His little nephew called me Aunt Amelia, even though we were not married yet. It all felt so natural. One spring evening, we went for a boat ride on the lake. It was calm and quiet. I remember the soft sound of the water and the way the sky turned pink. Mateo pulled out a small box and opened it. Inside was a silver ring with a white stone. Nothing too big, nothing too shiny. It was perfect. He asked me to marry him, and I said yes without even thinking. I cried, and so did he. We held hands the whole way back to the shore. We began planning a small wedding near the lake. I chose dress with soft lace around the sleeves. Mateo picked a dark gray suit that matched his calm and steady way of being. We chose white and green flowers, a simple cake, and music from our favorite films. It was all coming together. Every day felt full of joy. Mateo texted me sweet messages every morning. He counted the days until the wedding. Only 40 days left. Then only 20. I saved every message. When I missed him, I read them again and again. He made me feel safe. I couldn't wait to start our life together. Then, 1 week before the wedding, my best friend Julia called. She said, "We have a plan for your last weekend as a single woman. Just one night at the beach with your closest friends." I laughed and said, "As long as it's quiet. No clubs or crazy things." She promised it would be calm, just music, food, and girl talk. I trusted her. We drove to a small beach town by the sea. The house we rented was peaceful. It had white curtains, soft chairs, and windows that looked out over the water. There were 5 of us, me, Julia, my cousin Elena, and 2 friends from university. We cooked dinner together and lit candles on the table. The food was simple, and the air smelled like the ocean. I felt lucky to be surrounded by women who cared for me. After dinner, we took photos and played a silly game about memories. They all told funny stories about me. I laughed so much my cheeks hurt. I sent a photo to Mateo. He wrote back, "You look happy. I love you." I smiled and wrote, "I love you too." Later, Julia suggested we take a walk by the beach. The sky was full of stars and the air was cool. We took off our shoes and let the water touch our feet. We didn't talk much. It was a perfect moment. As we walked, we passed a small bar. It was not loud or crowded. Julia asked, "One drink, Amelia?" "Then we go back." I nodded. Inside, there was soft music and warm lights. We sat at a table near the window. I had a glass of wine. We talked about our school days and the future. Everyone was in a good mood. That was when I saw him. A man walked in and sat near the bar. He had dark hair and a simple white shirt. He didn't look at me at first, but after a few minutes, our eyes met. He smiled. I looked away quickly. He moved closer, took a seat near our table, and asked, "Bachelorette party?" I nodded. "You must be the bride," he said. I smiled but didn't answer. He was not loud or rude. He was calm, like Mateo, but with something different in his eyes. A sadness, maybe. I should have said nothing, but I didn't. I said, "Yes, I'm getting married next week." He said, "He must be a lucky man." I said, "Yes, he is." I don't know why I talked to him. I didn't want to be rude, but I also didn't move away. He asked if I was nervous. I said yes. He asked if I was sure. I said I was, but something in his voice made me feel exposed. He looked at me like he already knew I was carrying too much inside. He said, "Do you want some fresh air?" I stood up. I don't know why. Maybe I needed space. Maybe I just wanted to be away from questions. We walked out to the sand. The waves were soft. The stars were bright. We stood in silence. He looked at me and said, "You seem like someone who wants to run." I said nothing. He stepped a little closer. "Don't worry," he said. "I'm not trying anything. I just want to talk." And then, without thinking, I made a mistake. I let him kiss me. Only for a few seconds, but enough to break something inside me. Enough to change what came next. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Share your country in comments. I pulled away the moment it happened. I looked at him, confused and afraid. He didn't say anything. He just looked back at me, calm and quiet. My heart was beating fast. I turned and walked away without another word. I didn't go back into the bar. I didn't even say goodbye to my friends. I walked alone down the beach, holding my shoes in one hand and shaking. When I reached the house, the lights were off. Everyone was asleep. I crept inside and lay on the couch. I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the soft sound of the sea outside. My lips were dry. My chest felt heavy. I wanted to pretend nothing had happened. I told myself it was just a moment. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. It was a choice I couldn't take back. In the morning, I didn't say anything. My friends asked if I was okay. I smiled and said I was just tired. Julia made coffee and tried to cheer me up. I nodded and laughed a little, but my mind was far away. I checked my phone. Mateo had sent a message. "Good morning, my beautiful bride. 1 week to go." I didn't reply. We drove back in the afternoon. The road was quiet. The others sang songs and shared stories from the weekend. I looked out the window. I thought about Mateo, about the kiss, and about who I had become in one single night. I hated myself for it. I hated that I had hurt the one person who loved me the most. When we reached home, Mateo was waiting outside my apartment. He opened the car door and hugged me tightly. "I missed you," he said. "Did you have fun?" I smiled and said yes. I lied. I felt his arms around me, and I wanted to cry. We went inside. He told me about the flowers he picked up and the new playlist he made for the wedding. I sat beside him and nodded. I tried to smile, but it didn't feel real. That night he kissed my forehead and said, "Only 6 more days, Amelia. I can't wait." I said nothing. The next few days were difficult. I went through the motions. I helped with the seating plan. I looked at final dress fittings. I talked with the photographer. I smiled for my family and friends. But inside, I felt broken. Every time Mateo looked at me with love, my stomach turned. Every time he said he couldn't wait to marry me, I felt like a liar. At night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling. I thought about that kiss on the beach. It was short. It didn't mean anything, but it changed everything. I thought about Mateo's trust. I thought about how much he believed in me. I had destroyed something special. I had broken the one thing that mattered most. I tried to tell myself I didn't do anything too bad. I didn't sleep with the man. I didn't go back to his room. But the kiss was still real. It was still wrong. I was the one who let it happen, and I couldn't forget it. One afternoon, I went to visit my grandmother. She looked at me and said, "You look pale, Amelia. Are you sure everything is all right?" I nodded. "Just tired," I said again. That was the answer I gave everyone. It was easier than telling the truth, but the truth followed me everywhere. It sat beside me when I ate. It walked behind me when I went out. It waited in my bed every night. It filled every quiet moment with guilt. I couldn't run from it anymore. 3 days before the wedding, Mateo sent me a message. "I hope you know how much I love you. I've never been more sure about anything in my life." I read the message again and again. I started to cry. That night, I sat on my bed for hours, holding my phone. I knew I had to tell him. I didn't sleep. The next day, I called him and said, "Can you come over? I need to talk." He asked if everything was okay. I said, "Please, just come." His voice was gentle, but I could hear worry in it. When he arrived, he was smiling. He brought fresh flowers. He kissed my cheek and sat down on the couch. "What's going on?" he asked. I looked at the flowers. I looked at his eyes. I couldn't speak. He waited. He held my hand. I pulled my hand away. "I did something," I said softly. "Something I regret." His face changed. He leaned back and looked at me. "What happened?" I told him the truth. I told him about the beach, the man at the bar, and the kiss. I didn't give many details, but I didn't hide anything. I said I was sorry. I said it was a mistake. I said it meant nothing. I said I felt sick every day since it happened. He didn't speak for a long time. He just looked at me. Then he asked, "Why?" "I don't know," I said. I felt tired. I was scared. I don't have a good reason. "Was I not enough?" he asked. "You are more than enough," I said. "It was never about you. It was about me. My weakness." He stood up. He walked to the window. He kept his back to me. "I trusted you," he said. "I told everyone you were the best thing that ever happened to me. I believed it." "I'm sorry," I said again. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I couldn't walk into our wedding with this secret." He turned to me. His eyes were red. "You kissed him?" "Yes," I said. "Did you want to?" "No," I said. But I didn't stop it either. He sat down again. His hands were shaking. "I don't know what to say." "I understand," I said. "You don't have to decide anything right now. I just needed you to know the truth." He nodded slowly. I need time, he said. I can't think clearly right now. I'll wait, I said. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it. He stood up again. I'm going to leave now. Okay, I said. He walked to the door. He looked back at me. I loved you, Amelia. I still love you, I said. He didn't answer. He closed the door behind him. After he left, I sat on the floor. I held the flowers he brought. I cried until the sun went down. I cried until my eyes were dry. I didn't eat. I didn't move. I felt empty. I didn't know what was going to happen next, but I knew I had broken something I might never fix. The next morning, I woke up on the couch. The flowers Mateo had brought were still on the table. They looked fresh, but to me, they felt like a reminder of everything I had lost. I picked them up and put them in the bin. It hurt, but I couldn't look at them anymore. I checked my phone. No message. No call. I waited all day, hoping he would say something. But the screen stayed quiet. My friends tried to contact me, but I didn't reply. I wasn't ready to speak to anyone. I didn't want to explain. I didn't want to hear their voices full of shock or disappointment. That afternoon, I opened the box that held my wedding dress. I took it out and looked at it for a long time. I had imagined myself walking toward Mateo in that dress, smiling, holding his hands, saying our vows. But now, I couldn't even look at my reflection. I folded the dress again and put it back in the box. Later that night, I heard a knock at the door. My heart jumped. I thought maybe it was Mateo, but it was my sister, Nora. She looked at me and said, I know something is wrong. Let me in. I stepped aside and let her sit on the couch. She asked, Is the wedding still happening? I shook my head. I don't know, I said. Maybe not. She didn't push me for answers. She just sat beside me and held my hand. That was all I needed. The next day, I got a message from Mateo. It said, Can we talk again? Tomorrow evening? I replied, Yes. My hands were shaking when I sent it. I didn't know what he was going to say. Part of me still hoped he could forgive me. Part of me knew that might never happen. That evening, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything we had shared. The long talks, the silly jokes, the quiet walks by the lake. I remembered the boat ride when he proposed and how safe I felt in his arms. I had destroyed that feeling, and I didn't know if it could ever return. The next day, I cleaned the apartment. I put on fresh clothes and tied my hair back. I didn't want to look perfect. I just wanted to show him I was ready to listen. At 7:00 p.m., he knocked on the door. When I opened it, he looked tired. His eyes were red, but he stood tall. We sat in the living room. At first, there was silence. Then he asked, "Why did you really do it?" I looked down and said, "I don't know. I've asked myself that 100 times. I was scared, maybe. Not of you, but of everything changing. I didn't feel like myself that night. But that's not an excuse. I made a mistake. He didn't interrupt. He waited for me to continue. I said, I wish I could go back. I wish I had walked away, but I didn't. And I hate myself for it. He took a deep breath. You didn't sleep with him, right? No, I said. It was just one kiss, but it was one too many. He nodded slowly. You should have told me sooner. I was afraid, I said. I didn't want to lose you. You lost me the moment you kissed him, he said. His voice was soft, not angry. That made it even harder to hear. I felt tears in my eyes. I know, and I'm sorry. I'll always be sorry. He looked around the room. Then he said, I told my family. I canceled the wedding. I nodded. I understand. He looked at me again. I don't hate you, Amelia. I never could. But I can't marry you. Not now. Maybe not ever. I bit my lip. I wanted to beg him. I wanted to tell him that love could be stronger than one mistake. But I knew that wasn't fair. He had every right to feel broken. I had taken away the trust we had built. I still love you, I said. I know, he said. But love is not enough when trust is gone. We sat in silence for a long time. Then he stood up. He walked to the door. Before leaving, he said, Take care of yourself. You too, I whispered. And then he was gone. After that, the days passed slowly. I canceled everything. The flowers, the photographer, the food. The wedding planner was kind. She didn't ask questions. She just said, I'm sorry things didn't work out. My mother cried. My father was quiet. My sisters stayed close and didn't leave me alone. For weeks, I didn't go out. I started therapy. I needed help to understand myself. I needed to find out why I had done something so careless when I had so much. My therapist asked me to talk about my past, my fears, my doubts. I cried a lot in those sessions. But little by little, I started to understand. I wasn't afraid of Mateo. I was afraid of myself. Afraid that I wasn't good enough. Afraid that I would disappoint him. And in trying to run away from those fears, I did the very thing that proved them true. I let fear guide me instead of love. 1 month later, I went back to work. I started seeing friends again. I stopped avoiding mirrors. I smiled sometimes. Not the same smile, but a new one. Smaller, sadder, but real. One afternoon, while walking through town, I saw Mateo. He was outside a bookstore with his cousin. He saw me too. We both stopped. He waved. I waved back. That was it. No words. No smiles. Just two people who once loved each other more than anything, now standing on opposite sides of a street. That night I cried again. But it was a different kind of cry. It wasn't just pain. It was also peace. I had told the truth. I had accepted the consequences. I had started to heal. Today, I still wear the engagement ring on a chain around my neck. Not because I think Matteo will come back, but because it reminds me of who I was and who I want to become. A woman who doesn't run from fear. A woman who makes better choices. A woman who learns from her past. If I could go back, I would never go to that bar. I would never let that moment happen. But I can't change the past. I can only move forward. And now, I tell my story in the hope that someone else will listen. Someone who feels scared. Someone who feels unsure. Someone who might be about to make the same mistake. Think before you act. Protect what matters. Be honest, even when it's hard. Because sometimes one night really can change everything.